Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're in the home stretch here at Authenticate. This is our last block of sessions. Thanks for sticking around and staying engaged. It's been really great to see the level of participation, all the way on through the last part of the last day. So we'll do a couple of things in this last block. First, I'm going to talk about the FIDO Developer Challenge, which we just wrapped up. Then we have a special keynote presentation from Steve Wilson, who's joining us from Australia. And then I'll finish up with a discussion panel with myself and Bob Lord, Pam Dingle, and Christian Brand. And then I'll say a few words. Then we're off. So let's talk about the FIDO Developer Challenge a little bit. For those of you who are not familiar, we launched a developer challenge back in June of this year. This builds on prior work we'd done the past few years in Korea. That June Lee, who's joining me. June's our market development director based in Korea. Working with the local community there to engage with developers, mentoring them with partnered companies, largely with SDKs, and watching an array of really interesting applications. And our goal this year is to broaden that scope globally, and also to leverage the publicly available WebAuthn, JavaScript API, and related tools. And so we're super excited to introduce this year. We did. And so now we're actually going to share with you the winner momentarily and talk a little bit more about the process we went through to get there. So June, let me ask you. So I'll start first. Here's the high level. Basically, we had, as you can see in the top diagram, we had a flow chart, a very detailed process that winnowed things down to slightly over a dozen teams. June, can you walk us through what you went through to make this happen and what you saw during the process?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So we can divide the process into a submission and the implementation, and then evaluation, and then selecting the top 3 teams. So during the submission period from June and July, we had about 24 teams submitting their ideas from all over the world. In fact, it was about from 11 different countries. And then we narrowed down to, we did a little bit of screenings initially, and then we narrowed down to 14 teams. And they come from Canada, France, India, Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, USA, and Vietnam. So we invited those 14 teams to implementation stage, which ran until the end of August. So they are half of them are benchers and developers, and another half of them are students or faculties from universities. So during the implementation stages, we had technical support from the W3C WebAuthn community. We really appreciate that. All the teams enjoy engaging with them, and they acquire a lot of knowledge from their expertise. So after that, we had the final evaluation, and then selected top 3 teams at the end of in the middle of September, and then we invited them to virtual BC roundtable, which you will go over in the next slide.
Yeah. Before we jump into that, I'm just curious. Having done this now 3 times and really led this, through sheer will and excellent execution. What struck you during this process? What jumped out at you as maybe most surprising, most inspirational? Any added kind of context that you wish to share?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and my answer would be everything and everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to recognize all the teams who joined this event, but since we don't have enough time, maybe I can just mention a couple of them. I remember one team from India. She's a mother of a child, and with the COVID situation, she has her son studying at home, and then she has an engineering and software developer background. So she came up with the idea of making FIDO and AI-based remote test proctoring system. So that was very interesting, and it just stood out from the crowd. And then we had a team from France, and they came up with the idea of FIDO as using a digital wallet, and then coming up with the web payment system. So that was very interesting. And we had a team from Vietnam. They are from Vietnam, but working in Japan, and they came up with the very innovative, interesting, and easy-to-use note-taking apps for developers. So those are the things that I just can remember. But again, we don't have enough time to go over all of them. So we'll be writing a blog post on that and share with you very soon.
Okay, good. So June mentioned, in addition, or one of the things we did for the top teams, this was kind of a bootstraps challenge, and we had support from many sponsors, which I'll talk about in a second. But so we gave some prizes away, swag, mobile phones, things like that. But in addition, we invited the top 3 teams to an investor roundtable, as most of these teams, have visions for businesses. So we wanted to get feedback for them from investors, and the investors enjoyed talking to them. So briefly, the 3 firms we had engaged here, one is called 1414 Ventures. This is a group that invests exclusively in seed and actually pre-seed in the digital identity space, which I was super excited to see. There's only a couple firms focusing only on identity. They're one of them. Capital G, this is a growth equity fund from Alphabet or Google. And then Ascend Ventures, it's a local group here in Seattle, also does seed stage investing. So 3 different perspectives that they brought into this discussion. What we have now is a video, some clips from this roundtable. We actually ran a 2-hour session, and I'm going to share this video with you now from the venture capitalists.
My 2 pieces of advice are keep it simple, because I think entrepreneurs have a tendency to overcomplicate what they're doing, and that doesn't serve them well in their ability to recruit both team members or investors. And secondly, have a clear focus on how you're going to get distribution, because oftentimes smart people come up with really elegant solutions, but it doesn't have a clear path to getting distribution scale, which is ultimately critical for building a business.
People, product, market, right? So we always focus in on the team, obviously, because we're investing in pre-seed, seed, so it's super early. Product, what is unique? What's the secret sauce? We're always looking to understand what is that secret sauce, what's unique, what can't someone else copy. Product market fit, obviously, is the market big enough? Are the economics going to work? When they have the PPM, then we really focus in on the go-to-market, the GTM. How are they planning to actually connect in with that end user? Who is the end user? How are they going to capture them? How are they going to get traction?
At the earliest stage, at least, it's about 3 things: team, technology, and traction. And the more you have of any one of those things, the less you need of the others. Typically, you do want to see the team first and foremost have a great reason for doing the thing they're doing, and a great founder market fit, so they understand the problem, either as a pain point that they experienced previously, or something that they personally just have a lot of passion and personal reason to tackle.
Clearest trends that we're seeing right now are around the consumer market, where there's a lot of investment around verification and proofing. Yep. And I think there's 2 distinct types of businesses that are forming up there. There's one that are kind of service oriented, where we're providing a service in the back end because it's something that's hard to do. And so there's a lot of funding going into those businesses. There's a second type, which is more of a network based, which is similar to the services side, but saying, hey, let's have a consumer facing product where they can actually have a credential that they take other places. I think, in 10 years, we'll look back and say, gosh, that was obvious that there was going to be a large scale network identity business that helps reduce friction to the digital processes and transactions and life that we lead.
Privacy is a big one. Being able to manage, different types of consents that people are giving is also huge. We really like identity proofing as well. It's really interesting. There's a company that we're about to make an investment in that's using identity proofing as an alternative, establishing identity graphs, right, to be able to make alternative underwriting decisions in a very microfinance kind of way. Blockchain is another one. And when I talk about blockchain, I don't mean blockchain just for the sake of blockchain. I mean more employing blockchain to solve some of these bigger problems that we see out there. And blockchain is something that I see having a lot of application when you think about that whole ecosystem. And again, anything that's highly regulated and you're needing to be able to satisfy certain compliance and risk parameters, blockchain fits really, really well into that. So we're seeing a ton in that area as well.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting is the number of people spinning out of companies to start companies. And I think, phase one was Microsoft, and, everyone from Expedia to Zillow and all sorts of folks in between, have Microsoft heritage. And so that was sort of the first wave of Seattle entrepreneurs that created, unicorn outcomes and now decacorn outcomes. I think the second wave, has increasingly been coming out of Amazon. But I think what's really interesting is the third wave. So you have now DocuSign's a $40 billion company. Remitly went public today for $7 billion. We have, almost on a quarterly basis now, gigantic outcomes coming out of this ecosystem from companies that, have virtually nothing to do with Microsoft or Amazon. And what's exciting to me and what we're starting to fund a lot of is folks who have helped scale those companies.
So that was a really engaging discussion that we had. So with that, I want to announce our top 3 teams, and the winner is here today. Our third place team, some of you may have met them. He was here this week. It's a company called Trillbit. Their product was called SoundOff. They're based in Boston with R&D staff in India. A real interesting company using sound as a means of authentication. The second place company was a Japanese firm called Shacksware. They're working on a POC with the My Number or National ID card in Japan. And then I'm very pleased to introduce you to the winner of the 2021 Developer Challenge, Aaron Brighton from Lockdrop. Aaron, come on up. So first, Aaron, I'm going to have June present you with the winning certificate and a prize, which is another phone from Samsung.
Amazing, thank you.
Okay. So congratulations, Aaron. Take a seat. Just a couple quick questions here before we wrap up. Can you just introduce yourself and your company and talk a little bit about why you chose to take part in the challenge and what your experience was?
Sure. So my company, Lockdrop, we're focused on making it ridiculously easy to share confidential documents in a meaningfully secure way. And one of those pieces there, ridiculously easy, is something that's obviously been a theme of this conference around authentication. When it comes to security, you need to be not adding friction to the process, otherwise you'll miss adoption. So for us, for the FIDO Developer Challenge, we wanted to improve our existing login process. So we already had a pass for this login process. We were using an OTP over SMS approach, and we wanted to leverage FIDO2 WebAuthn to actually make that an MFA-able process without bringing back the knowledge factor. So we ended up implementing essentially a biometric authentication process through that.
Were there any lessons learned by when you went to implement FIDO that you'd share with other developers, early stage companies?
For sure. So one thing we noticed through our process of implementation was, there's a number of software libraries out there to be leveraged, open source libraries to be leveraged by developers. So for us, we use a library called Simple WebAuthn, but there's lots of other ones out there that would work for different people or different companies. And one thing to look at would also be go beyond the authentication process. Look at like authenticating individual users. Go beyond that. Look at how you can leverage FIDO2 in other use cases within your products.
Okay. Good. Well, Aaron, congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you.
So stay put for